The innovation of EV technology will shape a new way of living. Traditional automobile manufacturers and tech giants have all announced their entries into this EV industry. Taiwan and Canada, on the other hand, would definitely not miss this great opportunity, as Taiwan has its leading semiconductor and ICT industry, while Canada has the raw materials for electrical battery and being the second largest vehicle production in North America, offering the world's best and the most secure intelligent vehicle data platform. Taiwan and Canada collaboration will enhance a global win-win for the EV industries. Okay, right up, let us welcome the moderator for the panel discussion, Dr. Sam Shan, the Secretary General of TADA, to the stage. Welcome. All right, and we'll invite our four speakers to return on stage to join the panel discussion. Let's welcome Stephen once again. Welcome. Michael, once again. And Joe, to join alongside this panel discussion. And Sarah, are you with us? Okay, we can see you right now. Hand over the stage to Dr. Shan.
Yeah, thank you for your time and thank you for your wonderful presentation. Today's theme is development of the future vehicle. The implication of the future vehicle is not only the electric cars, but also a lot of intelligence application which will equip in the future mobility vehicles. So from today's speakers, it reflects a very important factor of this ecosystem for software platform, for compound semiconductor, for EMS manufacturing services, as well as for chip design solution provider. And it's very important that the future automobile industry, the ecosystem is very important. And this factor consists a very important role. So everybody knows that automobile industry is a huge industry, more than 100 years. And relatively young ICT industry with its innovation, with its flexibility, with its integration of capability of technology is probably the best partner with the automobile industry. So here today, I like to, it's a very great honor to host this panel. So I have two questions to ask each of the speakers. Since many speakers mentioned about the integration is very important. There are many kinds of integration: hardware, software integration, physical and cyber integration, and most important, cross-domain integration. I think this is very, very important. So I'd like to ask Sarah first. For example, from the carpet, the smart carpet, I think most of you mentioned about the smart carpet. It seems to me it's a very important space that we need to do a lot of integration works. So how do you see the integration opportunity as well as challenge within the smart carpet? Sarah, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think integration is really key for realizing the future of the vehicle. BlackBerry, as you all know, we experienced a shift ourselves from becoming a hardware company to a software company, and we know that that's not an easy transition to make. And it's likely that automakers are going to struggle if they try to undertake all of the software development by themselves. So in order to achieve that time to market for new software services, likely what automakers will need to do is try to focus their R&D resources on true innovation versus integration and middleware, so that they can differentiate their vehicles based on the new digital services that they can provide to customers. I really believe that successful automakers, they will need to take a platform approach where they can rely on very trusted platforms that do things to de-risk their programs, give them faster time to market, that are really highly flexible so they don't get a vendor lock-in from either a cloud perspective, a hardware perspective, software platform perspective, and that really give them also the full control over their data and their ability to monetize this broad ecosystem of developers and potential partners that are really going to help to drive that new vehicle experience. And hey, by the way, these platforms also have to be highly secure, highly safe, because we're obviously dealing in a really critical environment. So I think integration is very necessary, but I would say it's unlikely to be a key differentiator. And so what I would do, I would say to focus on innovation, allow very trusted partners to do the integration, and then have essentially a strategy for how you can really outsource that integration work and focus the company on what you want to deliver as either new experiences, cost reduction, or really like this fabulous new future of automotive.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I also read there's a report that BlackBerry has a project with Magna. You just as extension a project with Magna. I think any advice or for the audience you want to share some of kind of experience by working with automotive company?
Yeah, so yes, BlackBerry itself, we've actually worked with over 45 automakers, and we have our software actually in over 195 million vehicles worldwide, and that spans over 270 makes and models. And as well, we've also partnered. So we've partnered well with leaders in AI and cloud, for instance, with our friends at AWS, to further expand our partnerships. I think what I would say is you have to partner with people that you can trust, who have a long track record. BlackBerry does over 20 years of experience in delivering against start of production deadlines 100% of the time. Partner with those you can trust, and also those that have very aligned goals. So, we're really an enabler for automotive. We're not a competitor. We have aligned goals in terms of helping automakers monetize their vehicles of the future, and let us enable that through foundational software.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, go back to Stephen. From your point of view, the gallium nitride is very powerful things, but how do you solve the integration issue among those manufacturing and the partners? Yeah.
So I think one of the areas that we really contribute significantly is, as I said earlier, the reduction of the size and the weight and the volume of what are quite substantial parts of the electric vehicle powertrain. So in conjunction with that, I think what we see as being important is the development of what we call power subsystems. So this might be the development of some additional functionality that we can actually work with our customers to help them enable things like modules and anything that we can do then to make life easier for the customer is going to be an advantage, both in terms of the functionality and the reliability, and also the overall cost. But I think, from our perspective, we see this every time we engage with a customer. We really drive significant size, weight, volume reductions, increase in efficiency, and overall system cost reduction. But I think the focus on power subsystems for us is something that we're going to be really focused on in the coming years.
Okay, thank you. Very very important point of view. And back to Michael. I think everybody know you are a very important company. Actually, Pegatron is a very important key player within Tesla ecosystem. So how did you look at, you become a tier 1 integrator already. So how do you see the integration issue among those very complicated ecosystems?
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
So let me take the example of the e-carpet. Compared to the traditional carpet, it's more, it's a little bit different and more complexity because the integration will be not only the simply hardware like the vehicle and the firmware and the software, just in closed loop OS. Right now, the operating system is more different and the need to dealing with more data flow, information flow from the cloud. So the integration, the view already expand from the foundation hardware, firmware, software, even though application in the cloud. So also the scope is more complicated than before.
Okay.
So which means we need a bunch of the knowledge across the domains, and the need to engage with the expert of the different field to work together to make the success.
Okay.
Like for instance, a hardware company probably not familiar with the operation system or the cyber security. So when we dealing on the integration program, we need to engage with a different field expert to work to win the business.
Yeah, I can imagine the complication. I just heard a saying that the e-carpet within the car is like you use the airplane pilot cockpit with the passenger cabin, and you put everything together within such a small space within the car.
Yes.
So you can imagine that complication is very, very difficult.
Yes.
Okay, back to Joe. How do you see from your solution the integration issues?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I think for the way we see it is actually quite aligned with what Sarah was mentioning. Customers, automotive makers, they want to do integration, right? But they still want the bottleneck right now is they still want to basically have customization. So we see the problem in two folds. One, because automotive makers, it's a closed ecosystem.
Yeah.
As I kind of touched upon earlier.
That's right.
So therefore, if I work with company A and I move it from company A to B to C, I almost have to relearn,
Yeah.
and that takes away time to market. So that's why it's like, how do we move from a closed ecosystem to an open ecosystem? That's the first part, and this is a challenge. I'm not saying why should one company listen to the other, right? So there needs to be a higher power or higher being out there that comes up and kind of organizes or kind of gives everyone this type of open platform direction. So I think standardization is critical to integration. Second part is, we're already seeing it, is the modularization, right?
Okay.
How do we do modular designs while still having these type of unique IDs or interfaces and UIs? Right now there's two paths. I see one where it's a standard, it's kind of everyone looks very similar and they just slap a badge on it, which is a lot of times customers don't want that. Or if you do too much customization and then you spend too much effort on integration, as Sarah mentioned.
Okay.
So I think there needs to be more of a hybrid mode, which I think customers are shifting towards. And companies like Pegatron, others, they're becoming bigger players in, like, I see tier 3s trying to do what tier 2 is doing. Tier 2 is becoming what tier 1 is doing. So as they kind of move up in terms of their scope, I think that will help with the, as I mentioned, time to market with the modular design, with the open ecosystem, and then we can get this out faster, quicker, cheaper. And I think that's, for everyone here, that will be the benefit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. It's a very important point, because that's a game rule. It's very different from ICT industry to the automobile industry. That's totally different. Okay. With limit of time, let me ask the second question, but it could be a very quick recommendation. Probably one or two keywords to those Taiwanese and Canadian company who is involving the EV market or going to join the market. What kind of recommendation or keywords you should give to them? From Sarah?
I think find partners you can trust and just do something great together.
Okay. Stephen?
So I think for me, I think the thing that I most worry about is talent development and
Okay,
then
yeah,
talent
yeah.
retention.
Yes.
And I think that it's really incumbent upon us in Taiwan and Canada to figure out how we can collectively work together
Yeah, yeah.
to foster and develop and retain very best-in-class talent.
Yes, that reminds me. I heard a boss saying that in the consumer electronic industry, keep looking for. Can you find someone who understand automobile? But in the automobile industry, keep looking for someone who understand electronics. So that's happened everywhere in the world. Yeah. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you, Sam. I think my suggestion will be open mind and engagement with all the alternative opportunity,
Okay.
then win-win together.
Win-win. Yeah.
Thank you.
Joe.
Yeah, mine is more of a cliche. I look at the EV market as it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So
Okay.
it's important to have your ROI and KPIs set at the right kind of tempo versus trying to look at. I think, especially being in Asia, we look at ROIs very quickly, right? Otherwise,
Yes.
you get the heck out of here. So I think it's important to set that the pace at the right one for the EV market.
Okay, thank you. I wish I have more time, but with the time limit. So let's appreciate, thank you all the speakers, especially Sarah from Canada. We thank you for their wonderful presentation. So that will conclude this panel discussion. Okay, back to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you once again. Let's give a round of applause to our 5 distinguished guests on the stage.